Thank you, JBM and Manisha, for putting this session together. Delighted to be in conversation with this very accomplished panel. Just a brief overview on where we are, because we have been talking about audiobooks for a while. And I think we have been talking about them for a while because in publishing, this has been the biggest buzzword. I think in recent times, if there's one thing that, or one format that people have been very excited about, it's audiobooks. Now, in the UK and the US and other markets, audiobooks are a very strong part of the revenues. In India, I think we are at a stage where we are still working through a few things. The uptake is not as much as was initially projected, but at the same time, it is a very exciting space. And we are hoping to cover some of these aspects and see what the challenges are, what the opportunities are. Of course, I think no session these days is complete without talking about how AI comes into the picture, who the reader, I don't even know whether reader is the right word, who's the listener for the audiobooks is. So we're going to dive into some of these questions and then open it up for discussion. So Ashutosh, can I start with you? Yeah. Tell us about audiobooks in the Marathi landscape, where you're at, how big is your catalog, and we will, like I said, discuss some of the points or some of the questions as we go along, but just give us an overview of where you are.
Yeah. Hi everyone, good afternoon. As I've been introduced, Sakal is a big legacy brand in Maharashtra and has a wide impact in Marathi literature. It has been there, the Sakal newspaper has been there since 1932. Relatively, the books publishing division of Sakal is quite new. There has been many old publishers who have consolidated and have a great backlist. When it comes to audiobooks, personally our catalog is not that big, but I would like to throw some light on what Sakal has been doing in digital audio. Because when it comes to a media house, the avenue is much broader and the market is quite wide. So we have a lot of opportunities. So Sakal has been doing a lot of activity in digital audio, and with that, Sakal predominantly being a news-driven media house, our news-driven audio has been at the forefront and has gathered a widespread listenership. In fact, it has been listed internationally for many awards. It also won the Vanifra South Asia Digital Award for podcast recently. Apart from that, Sakal Digital has been doing a lot of non-fiction. We see that fiction rules in the audio space, even in Marathi. But Sakal has been doing a lot of non-fiction. It is something which is very unique to the complete digital audio spectrum. In non-fiction, we have been doing health. We have the most popular show has been Bold Unstoppable, which brings out personal stories of success of people around us and has gathered the most response. We have done shows on health. We also have done, we have a Sarkarnama is another product through which we have a lot of political interviews and political discussions happening in this digital audio space. As far as Marathi culture in audio is concerned, I remember in my childhood I used to hear Bolti Pustake, speaking books, and it has been a part of our tradition. In our tradition there has been Kirtan and Bharud. Bharud was very popularized by Sant Eknath, and the Marathi culture is quite rich and vibrant because of the literature that our saints gave us, right from Sant Jnaneshwar. But I also remember audiobooks is not new to Marathi because in my college days I used to have cassettes of Pula Deshpande, and we used to listen to, and it was great fun listening to Pula Deshpande in audio, he himself narrating it. 10 years back, 10, 12 years back, I think Storytel played a big role in Marathi audio. It so happened it teamed up, the senior team out here of Storytel had a Marathi background, so naturally I think there was a Marathi bias in there, and they pushed the Marathi story audio a lot, and it helped in a big way is because a lot of writers who we wanted to acquire were taken away by, for books which we wanted to acquire were taken away by Storytel at great royalty advances. And this was a great time when young authors were writing fiction based on historical characters which are very popular. And that culture, they contributed in a big way in that culture. But over a period of time, if you see, the whole growth has tapered out, and we don't see a lot of investment in that space. The most popular books have been still the very strong backlists in Marathi, which is Shriman Yogi, Mrutyunjay, names like Suhas Shirvalkar, Bhalchandra Nemade, Pula Deshpande. They are still the dominant in the list. I would say that they still hold 90% of the market share. As far as new books are concerned, we can see the trend in the print that personality development and self-help books have become very popular. The same we can see recently in audiobook, where Vishwas Nangre Patil's, and even a book which we published in 2023 and sold 1.5 lakh copies, Goshta Paisha Paneji, had become popular on Storytel. Another popular book recently is the biography of Sharad Pawar, Lok Maza Sangti. So this is the overall landscape of Marathi audiobook, and there's not much investment happening at this stage. The investments that Storytel made in this space, and still it's a very dominant player. I don't think Audible stands anywhere near to what Storytel has in its catalog for Marathi. In fact, Kuku FM in 2024 also cracked a deal with them where they were distributing all their content. We have a different business model at Sakal in terms of digital audio is concerned. Predominantly, since we have the marketing strength, we have a lot of sponsorships, we have ads in our digital audio content, and that's the space which we are growing. But going forward, certainly coming from books publishing, audiobooks is something that I'll be looking forward to, and with this panel discussion, maybe I'll get some insights to go home and do something great in the Marathi audiobook segment.
Thank you for that. And I am going to come back to the question of platforms and including where you have micro content. I want to come back to the rumor of Spotify coming into the audio market, but we'll come to all that later. Khushi, do you want to tell us about where you're at Penguin Random House? I mean, you have a vast backlist and you have a very thriving front list. Tell us how many, what your catalog consists of, and also a question for all of you actually. How much of your front list actually gets converted into audiobooks? That would be useful to know.
We started audiobooks at Penguin about 6 years ago, so late 2019, early 2020. And right now our catalog is 700 plus titles. We continue to convert 100 titles every single year for our Penguin India list, and 100 Hindi titles which will start releasing on platforms this year. And we've also started converting titles from our Penguin Southeast Asia list, so we're converting about 25 titles from there every year. The catalog is vast. In terms of genre, we've actually seen that spirituality is the top one, where we see our sales coming from. Mind, body, spirit titles continue to contribute to about 50% of our sales.
50%?
Yeah.
Wow, that's,
And then, followed by business and self-improvement, and then followed by mythological fiction. Over the years, we have seen a rise in the sales of fiction titles and self-help titles. For frontlist and backlist, we do see a healthy split of sales between the two. About 30% sales do come from frontlist titles. We've converted the majority of our backlist bestsellers, so now our focus is mainly on frontlist. About 80% of the titles that we convert every year for the Penguin India English list is frontlist titles. So that's, and we want to, the aim is to convert everything we can. This number will rise in the coming years. The mandate is that, the book should be available in all formats, and we should find a new reader for the book if we're able to through audio. I think there's a considerable amount of people out there who are consuming content but may not be traditional book readers, and those are the people that we want to reach via audio. Essentially we'll continue to convert everything. I do think, in the coming years there will be a rise in sales. Audio has been growing over the years. We've seen some stagnancy in the past 2 years or so, but the market is growing. So we're hopeful that, with Hindi coming into the picture and then later on regional languages coming into the picture, we're able to grow and increase our sales.
Great, thank you. Arcopol, will you give us an overview of where you're at HarperCollins with your audio list?
So earlier we used to follow the licensing model, and I think Ashutosh very rightly said, Storytel did make investments into acquiring a lot of our audio titles, so did Audible. And I think we reached that point in the year 2020, around the pandemic, when we felt that limiting an audiobook to just one platform was probably not a good idea, and investing in producing our own audio and owning the IP and making it available as widely as possible was the best thing to do. And we selectively began publishing audio across specific genres, some of which Khushi has listed: spirituality, personal finance, history, self-help, mind, body, spirit. As of this year, we've been more ambitious in terms of how many books are being published in audio. But not all the front list as of now is going into audio, because, as I said, not every genre works in audio. Just to give an indication, in the US and the UK, fiction, crime, thrillers are the leading genres that do well in audio. In India, it's the self-help, spirituality. So largely it's a non-fiction driven market. I think Indians want to become rich, want to make their lives better, and if the success of Lisa Mangaldas' sex book is any indication, they want to improve their sex lives as well. So,
and if none of this happens, they always go to mythology.
Yes. So yes, but obviously backlist is a huge part of any publishing house's revenue. So our backlist, a lot of it is already available in an audio format due to our existing licensing deals, but that will also get into an audio format. I think so that's where we are at. I think collectively the publishing industry as a whole needs more platforms and players to enter the market. We have seen that with the entry of Spotify in the Western markets, it has definitely lifted audiobook listenership across. And there was a report recently which said that thanks to Spotify, 1 out of 10 listeners that's been added has been a first-time listener of an audiobook, which means for sure, we know there are more Spotify is in more mobile phones in India than, say, Audible or Storytel. And once you switch on audiobooks as an option in the Spotify app, authors, publishers are definitely going to see more listenership, royalties coming in. And I think just generally, I don't think a two-player market is a good idea. I think listeners need multiple options where they can, choose how to listen to audio.
And easier access, right?
And easier access. I think the Audible credit model is something which many people have failed to get a grip on. Storytel is an easier model to understand. It's an all-you-can-consume format. But I think, thankfully, Audible has now introduced UPI as a way to purchase audiobooks. But I think I do want to make a point about platforms like Pocket and Cuckoo, who have entered the market and generally made audio listening a more of a bigger habit, especially in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. And I think if audiobook listenership has to grow, I think we will have to tap into smaller niche markets where access to cheap cell phone data and pocket-friendly plans are going to help.
So it's interesting you say that, because India is one of the largest podcast markets in the world, right? So, I mean, it's not that presumably people are not used to listening to audio. Is the hindrance that you have to pay for content, but then you're paying for Netflix? So what is it that, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll come to that later, but I think linked to that is the question of who really is the audience for audiobooks. And so is it someone who is your regular reader who also wants to try a different format? Is it cannibalizing in terms of, print readership? But not yet, the numbers don't say that. Or are you actually looking at, or do you think the audiobooks listener, we really have to find a better word, is entirely new to the idea of books and reading? Who do you think is your audience? And again, I'm going to start with you there.
Actually, I have data which I had pulled from our study on our listeners. But before coming to that, recently we did an audiobook of a book by the title Up Against Darkness in Marathi. And we did an audiobook in a way in which this audiobook was played on a community radio in the district of Ahilyanagar. And they approached us with the permission of doing that. I said, very well, do it, please. And the only condition is that after you have done that, you give us the file so that we can put it on Storytel and other platforms for other listeners to have that book. So the approach is, if you ask me personally, I don't see audiobooks cannibalizing print. It actually facilitates the reach of the book. Anyway, the kind of audience right now the audio books or digital audio is reaching out to has a very less mix of print readers. This I'm talking in the context of Marathi only. Is the reason if I bring in my own personal story, so I have stopped buying books for last 3 years, and I am completely hooked on to Audible. Is the reason that I can use my free time where my hands, or I am on a move, I'm driving, or I'm walking at that time. This time can be utilized to listen to a lot of audiobooks and enable to complete at least one book a month. And personally, I've been reading English books, so it goes well with me, and I believe that is what the overall demography or the TG of audiobooks is, if I assume so. So it's a wide age group, 25 to 60 old. Now the content that Sakal has played, we had done, we have a great Ganesh festival for 10 days in Maharashtra, so we utilized that and did a Ganesh Puja audiobook. It went viral, it did very good. So in that point of view, we had women audience in a big way. We did also a ritual audiobook during Diwali season, and this was a great experiment that clicked. So most of the audio content that has been consumed, Sakal's audiobook is which has been consumed, since we have diverse content, like politics is mostly consumed by men, religious and spirituality are mostly consumed by women and men as well. Then we have very interesting mix of content where we bring out farmer related content, agri content. This is very unique to Sakal. We have a newspaper on agriculture, which I suppose would be the only newspaper published daily in the world. So we get a very good listenership from farmers as well. So there is another segment that we reach out to. Out of the 85%, out of the total listeners here in India, 85% and 15% abroad. We have very strong Marathi community internationally in US, Singapore, Australia, and we get good listenership from them as well.
Can I ask you quickly, what is the pricing model for audiobooks in Marathi as vis-a-vis printed books?
See, since dominant player is Storytel, the pricing model, the subscription model is there. Sakal Digital Audio, it is clubbed with the subscription, as well as it is distributed on Spotify and other platforms, and our revenue model is through ads in the audio.
Khushi, who's your audiobooks consumer?
I do think for us, it is mostly readers, readers who don't have time to go back home and have an hour to open a book. Again, they're listening while they're commuting and so on. I don't think it's cannibalizing print sales. We know a lot of readers who will read a book and at the same time listen to the audio of it for a full sensory experience. The reason, I think, is the long length of the book, right? You mentioned that we have a huge podcast listenership in India. I think about 100 million people tune in every month. The length of a podcast is usually 1 to 2 hours. The length of an average audiobook is 8 hours. Kuku FM, Pocket FM, other platforms are doing, short summarized versions of audiobooks, which are doing very well. We've also seen, some of our books that are about 4 hours long, let's say an Ankur Variku. We do see the difference in sales when the time length is shorter. For pricing as well, it depends on the length of the book, but essentially an 8-hour long audiobook is about 900 to 1,000 rupees. So I think that also comes into play because we are a cost-sensitive market.
Arco, who do you think is the consumer for audio?
Honestly, we have very little data from the retailers on who at the end of the day is consuming the audiobooks. If I were a platform like Audible, or if I were a Netflix, I were an Amazon Prime, I would be able to track who is listening, how much are they listening, at what point in the audiobook are they dropping off, how many books are purchased but not finished. And I think that sort of data is going to be very interesting to review, and will also help us publish in a different way. But the truth is, publishers all over the world, while we do get royalty statements and listenership stats, but it is not detailed enough for us to really paint an accurate picture of who is consuming and how much they're consuming to the level of accuracy that we're looking for. I think it's only if you have a platform on which you're able to map it to a specific consumer, we can do it, but otherwise we don't. But I think largely for HarperCollins, because we're an English language publisher primarily, it will be the English language reader or listener who is one has an affinity towards audiobooks, or doesn't have enough time to probably focus and read, and audiobooks are something which can be used sort of as a passive listening format. You're driving, you're on the treadmill, you're taking your dog for a walk. It can be clubbed with another activity, and I think this is an attraction for people to get into the listening habit of audiobooks. If you want to read a print book, you really have to be focused and you have to find time for it. But I think I would love if more people can, experience audiobooks by virtue of clubbing it with another activity.
So a question for all of you actually. What about audiobooks for children? Is that an area that you actively look at? What's the success rate there? Because one would assume that, it's children and there's the audio experience. It should probably be a likely natural fit. But where do children's audiobooks stand at the moment? And we'll start with you, Arco.
So I think the benchmark has been set very high by Karadi Tales in terms of how they produced audiobooks. So personally, as an audiobook listener myself, I would ideally like to give that sort of experience to the end listener, and mostly, that would be parents and kids. But we are yet to explore the children's side of audio publishing fully to the potential it deserves to be explored in. But it is definitely one of the priority areas for us. But I think having said that, I think children's audio definitely is a big part of, say, the Audible bestseller lists. So if you look at how much, say, Harry Potter features in the top 100, it is going to be right amongst the top 10. And now they have the full cast Harry Potter edition, wherein, which is, an incredible achievement of sorts. So I think the benchmark has been set in a format in a manner where to really meet that sort of quality, one needs to have that scale in terms of sound design, narration, and production values. But I think it's going to be something we're going to be able to execute fully very soon.
For us, if you're doing 100 books a year, about 10 of those will be children's books. So not at the same scale, but we haven't seen a big uptake in sales. From authors, like let's say Sudha Murthy is doing well, a few of her books. Sanjeev Sanyal does well because I think it's a higher age group also. I do think this is going to change in the future because we're seeing a lot of new interactive things come in for children in manners of how they listen to an audiobook. In the US, they have a toy called Yoto, which children can carry around and plays the audiobook for you. There are some interesting players that are coming in the Indian market as well. We're exploring a partnership with a platform called My Wonder. Again, they're a toy. The toy speaks to the child, etc., and the child can carry it around. It's sort of their companion. So I think as the platforms also change and the content can become more engaging for children, that it's fun for them to listen to, the readership will increase. But as of now, we haven't seen much of an uptake.
If I can just add to what Khushi said, one interesting point of view that I thought Audible had mentioned when we asked them that why aren't you acquiring enough children's titles, and I think the credit model on Audible is a big hindrance in why fewer children's books get picked up. So the credit model is one where you get a credit a month and you can use that credit to buy a book of your choice no matter what the duration. Yeah. And a children's picture book or a children's book will be, say, an hour long, maybe 2 hours, versus, say, a book by Barack Obama, narrated in Barack Obama's voice, which would be 15 hours long. So you want to use that one credit for maybe the longest or the most expensive book in the catalog, and not for a children's book, which is, in 2 hours it's over. So I think I want to go back to the point I made, that we need more retailers to come into the market to give us more options where I'm not dependent on the credit to listen to an audiobook. I can use, other formats as well.
And we're just going to go to the platforms question in a bit. But Ashutosh, what about children's books in your space?
As rightly said by Arcopol and Khushi, I completely understand what the challenges are and very insightful points they made. This is always a tussle between me and the editor who's there in the room. Why are we not publishing enough of children's book is because in Marathi we are facing a lot of language crisis. And I always talk to my editor ki baba, if you want to publish an illustrated, full color, beautifully made children's book, there is no compromising in making a children's book. Then at the end I have to prove the P&L and I have to have the scale. So we are still struggling to find a middle ground, how we can achieve the P&L and as well as do children's books. These challenges they both have put, but there's a very interesting thing that I saw. My sister is in Germany and her children listen to audiobooks in German, and they get in their retail shops they get, or I don't know where they shop from, but maybe Amazon, they get headsets which have audio in it. So when my sister or her husband is driving, the children are sitting on the back seat listening to the audiobook. I think as Arcopol said, that the investment in this space has to grow. Someone like Saregama has to come with a device meant for children, because as soon as you bring audio on your mobile and give the mobile in hands of children, it's going to lead to something else. So I found those products very innovative, which I saw in Germany, that they were headsets which had tracks of audio, and maybe with the USB drive they could add more audiobooks to it. So yes, there has not much been done on the audiobook front in Marathi, but as I said, we in India have a tradition of Bolti Pustake. They have been previously there have been investments in this space, there have been cassettes, but I don't know why they are not brought in the digital audio space. It's a good point for me to go back and research and see if those digital audio tracks can be revived and made it available to the children. But again, the platform will be a challenge where we, as Arcopol rightly said, where do we put it, where do we monetize it, is a big hurdle. One of the biggest hurdles in audiobook industry right now is if Sakal wants to do its own audiobook, it's an investment. We cannot compromise on the app, is because the app defines the user experience. We cannot compromise on that. Storytel did Storytel Originals. They invested a lot with narration, sound effects. These all things are, if these efforts are being done for adults, I think more efforts will have to be done for children, is because there has to be a lot of authenticity in the narration and the drama has to come out. With I think more investment and investment is required in this space.
Should we go to the question of platforms? And we'll start with you, Khushi. Just give us a brief overview, and this is like an open question because I don't think it's going to vastly differ. Maybe it will differ from language to language, but perhaps some will be common. Where are we at with platforms, and what do you see changing?
For the longest time, 90% of our sales came from Audible. Over the past year, this has changed. Since Spotify started selling audiobooks abroad, two things happened. One is, the platform shift. Right now, we're seeing about 25% of our sales coming from Spotify. And the interesting bit is that these sales are coming from the US. So another thing that has done is that it has increased the sale of our audiobooks in the US market, which for the longest time was a very measly number. So it's also helping us reach a different audience. But again, so Audible remains the main platform, followed by Spotify, and then, very marginal numbers for platforms like Rakuten Kobo, audiobooks.com, and so on. Cuckoo FM and Pocket FM remain an audience that we're yet to explore. We do have 15 of our best-selling Hindi books releasing on Cuckoo FM in 2026. I think that will be something that helps us reach a much more mass audience. But that is where things are going, just the increase in production of Hindi and regional languages, and also making it available on platforms that are able to reach tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Arco?
So yes, so there's Audible, there's Storytel, there's Cuckoo and Pocket. I think after Spotify comes in, it'll be a more competitive space. I think something that Storytel had done was very interesting, where the subscription that were being offered, you had a $2.99 subscription where you could listen to audio in all languages. If you wanted to listen to audio only in Marathi, you're a 99 rupee.
Now it is
149 rupees per month. And Storytel does have a Malayalam list. It has a Bengali list, and I think to give that sort of a like a Tata Sky approach, where you can choose a package of sorts which works for you. I think that sort of customization, I think, was interesting. I don't think Audible has introduced something of that nature. But I think these are largely the platforms. I think what Cuckoo and Pocket have done, I think they have approached audio as a largely an episodic or audio originals. I think that is the approach they've taken. So they have, roped in screenwriters, they've roped in script writers who specialize in writing maybe for television serials, and the subjects are very massy. And I think the reason why they have got the kind of investments from VCs is also because they have been very, very agile in responding to the kind of response they've received for these platforms. But I think to largely grow the market, we do need to invest more on the languages front as audiobook publishers.
I think you've given us an overview of the platforms that you currently work with. Okay, so I've just been told that we just have 10 minutes. I did want to quickly ask 2 questions before we open it out to the audience. So we'll have to be brief or Manisha will kill all of us. The first question is really about AI. I think, does it help in terms of bringing down costs? Does it help in terms of production? How does AI fit into this, and do you have a wish list of what you'd like technology to do? And the other question, and I'm combining both of them, is would you commission specifically for audiobooks, or are all your books, audiobooks, going to be a derivative of the print format? I'll start with you.
A lot of AI will come as a boon, is because it will bring down the costs, and we'll be able to achieve the break-evens quickly. But in Marathi, the challenge is the pronunciation. We're still struggling with that. Yeah. But then there are a lot of agencies, literary agencies who used to support us with book production. They have come out with the hybrid model where everything is narrated by an AI, but the pronunciations are edited. So that brings down the cost considerably, and as a publisher, I think I'll welcome that, is because, of course, but as far as user experience is concerned, we are still far away from that. The production quality is not so great. What was your second question, sorry?
Would you commission specifically for audio?
I would like to. I've never come across an opportunity, is still because if someone is putting a lot of efforts in research, developing the content, they will want it to reach to a wider audience, and still print dominates that space. Audio is not very popular. Audio, there are limitations, so that's why I think that will happen when audio becomes very popular and is equal to that of print.
Thank you.
I'll take the second question first. Yes, I think we would definitely love to commission audio directly. Obviously, no printing cost, distribution, marketing, sales, visibility in stores, all those issues taken care of.
You still need marketing though.
Yeah, I mean, not in the scale of, say, but yeah, more on the digital marketing front. So we definitely would want to look into that space. AI, I think all publishers are looking at AI and seeing what the options are. But to make it a really compelling business case, one, it has to save costs significantly from our existing processes. And I think it has to bring down the production timelines also. We want to reach a stage where, if I'm releasing the print edition of a book on a certain date, can AI help me, bring out the audio edition in English and other languages also at least around about the same time? I think we're not there yet, but I think maybe at the next JBM we'll be at a position where this thing, AI would be able to do something like that and to do it convincingly. I think the bigger challenge is that I think we as publishers need to make it convincing also for the authors to say that it's acceptable to use AI to do a translation of your work, to do an audio edition of your work. And I think there is some paranoia around the use of AI in an author's work. So I think we need to build a case for it.
Yeah. Khushi?
For AI, we're not using it currently, mainly because the quality is not where we want it to be. It can't emote emotions like sarcasm and so on, and then of course pronunciation issues with names, etc. I do think it's coming in the future. One thing that it does is it does save cost, of course. Another important thing that it does is it saves us time. It takes us about 4 months to produce and put out an audiobook. And the first 3 to 4 months are an important phase of the book where all the marketing is happening and, we do see major sales coming in. But because of the time that it takes for production, we lose out on that time period. So I think it will really help with that as well. There are, of course, difficulties, like Arcopol said, there's also legal issues on if AI emotes an author's voice, then, the copyright of that, etc., misuse, of course. And, sorry, what was the second question?
Would you commission?
We have considered it. I do think, perhaps in the future, it may be something that we do. Penguin US is already doing it. I think it will help in terms of the time period, right? If you're able to get authors to exclusively write something for audio that is in a shorter time period and more suitable for an audio format, it will definitely work. But of course, the market does have to expand to a certain number before we're investing in such a way.
Great. Oh, we do have 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to open this up to the audience. Oh, and we have quite a few questions. Should begin? Yeah.
Yeah, one quick question. I'm audible? Yeah. So my question is, when a reader reads out his or her own work, say Salman Rushdie reading out Knife, Arundhati Roy reading out Mother Mary Comes to Me, how does that affect the book's publicity? Like, do you get new authors because of that? And what is the re-listening rate for books like those?
It of course depends on the author as well, right? Arundhati narrated her own memoir, and we've not seen numbers like that before. Who doesn't want to listen to her life in her voice? But there's a lot of things to consider. A writer may not be a good narrator. So as long as that translation is happening, and depending on the genre as well, of course, if there's a personal touch to the book that the author can bring in, with their own voice, with their own emotion, then it definitely helps. People want to listen to their work in their own voice, but you do have to consider the narration bit of it.
Hi, my name is Manjari Dhamankar. I'm an author, translator, and a voiceover artist for Hindi, Marathi, and English. Just an extension of the question asked by ma'am. Well, the author, do you prefer the author to read his own book? Or if he's not so good in reading, so do you prefer to hire another voiceover artist? Is my first question. And another question is that for English voiceover, English book reading, English audiobooks, does the Indian English accent work in the US and the UK?
Ma'am, like you said, if the narration is good, then of course the author is the first preference. But if not, we go ahead with the narrator because you only listen to a 5-minute sample of an 8-hour-long audiobook before you buy it. And if it's not narrated well, there's a chance you're going to skip on it. And for the second question, as of now, we're for PRH India books, we're only doing books with a neutral accent. But for example, while we produce for Southeast Asia, because the main market with where we're selling the books is the US, followed by the UK and Australia, then we're going ahead with British accents and American accents.
I just want to add to that on the accent bit. We publish Amitav Ghosh, and his books have been narrated by a gentleman whose name is Ranjit Madgavkar. The US and the UK editions of audio editions of Amitav's works, they prefer that we use the Indian narrator. So I don't think the Indian accent is something which is, subpar for that matter. I think we are in a world where it's a very acceptable format. But yeah.
One more question, I think. We'll see how long this takes.
I was wondering, how do people, especially children, get to know about the audiobook, especially which is a good audiobook? Because if the narration isn't good, then it's not good. So how do I know what to buy, and how do children get to know about it? Is it the parents, the schools, the teachers, media? Where do they get to know about the audiobook?
I think we need to do more. I mean, the parents are obviously the ones who are going to, hit play. But I think she mentioned, My Wonder as a device. There's Wobble also as a device. These are devices which are trying to differentiate the audio listening experience from the parent's cell phone, so that I don't have to, suddenly the phone doesn't ring and, I have to take a call, and that interrupts the audio listening experience. So I think if there are specific devices with preloaded audiobooks, or it's an app that's connected to the parent's phone, I think that's a better way where they can discover books that they enjoy and listen to, and, they get to make the choice.
I just wanted to check if anyone had a question for Ashutosh, because I think it's been fascinating listening to how the Marathi audio landscape works as well. So if there is one question, we'll take that. Otherwise, I'm sure you can interact with the speakers outside. Sure. I'm not even looking at Manisha now, but yeah, go on.
Okay, I'll also try not to look at her. I'll just stand up. First, thank you so much for this really insightful session. I have a young daughter who's around 7 years old, and she uses a Yotto player. And mainly for the reason that Mr. Ashutosh brought up, that whenever I've given her my phone, it suddenly wanders into K-pop Demon Hunters or something else, and I don't really want that, and I want her to be listening to the book instead. I also happen to have a 15-year-old, and I have an 11-year-old too. What I wonder is, when they're in the Yotto space, when they're in that, until 10, we can, as parents, discover these books. So the discoverability is, of course, key. When you were talking about children's books, I was curious to know, what you said, 10% or something were children's books, right? So that encompasses picture books, middle grade, and young adult. Can you give me more of an idea of breakdown? And I guess that applies for all of you, in terms of, when we say children, it's a big space.
Mostly middle grade and young adult, because again, picture books don't have a lot of content for us to produce, right? So it would be an audio less than an hour, and difficult to sell that with the current models that are there.
I just like to add, with my personal experience, I think it's very difficult to introduce anything in today's world to children. They're already self-discovery mode. With my children, I have known that they know far more than me. And if they want something, they ask me. So even the books that they read are very interesting. And I don't have to introduce anything to them. If the marketing is right, if we know how to reach the children through so many channels now, I think the children pick up what they want, what their interests are, and that's where we connect.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.